Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm alone in Finland. This is EVE Online and today we're going to be, I don't know, throwing some petrol on a bonfire. I wanted to do a breakdown of ganking because there's been a couple of comments about it and some of them are the gankers that are going, we are skilled at what we do. You're going, it doesn't require skill, matey boy. And some of them are people going, they don't make money off of this, they are just arses. And that also is not a truthful comment. It may be what somebody thinks, they're not telling a lie, but it's not factually accurate. And then, a more interesting side of it for me is the sort of difference between high sec and low sec. So this is, if you will, the anatomy of the ganker. Now, I'm also aware this happens in nullsec, but I don't consider it, when it's happening in nullsec, with the exception of border systems, to actually be ganking, because the rules of the game are different out there. If you are at a choke point in nullsec, you are expecting at some point somebody to come through and roll you big time. That is the nature of the game out there. That is the nature of alliance combat. So it's not the same as when you know that you're always going to have an advantage over people and you are deliberately trying to sort of provoke that fight that you know you can win. There is no way in hell somebody else could roll you. So that's, in my mind, a key difference between ganking, or a key definition of ganking, and why I wouldn't consider nullsecers to be gankers in the same way. Now, with that being said, there is also a comment that comes up where a lot of the guys have said, this isn't all we do, and I am aware that a lot of people don't do just that. I'm also aware that within one corporation or one alliance you can have multiple people doing this. One of the groups we're going to talk about in a moment, they're actually predominantly a nullsec alliance. However, they are also one of the main, in that corporation is one of the main gankers I see and one of the routes I see, and in my opinion the man is not particularly skilled because he is always set up for punching down. So he flies a battle cruiser that is rigged for taking out frigates, and he will run away from anything sort of bigger than the destroyer almost every time. So that sort of, to me, shows a bit of the mentality. And also, and this is particularly funny on this, at this moment in time there is not any gankers in the pipeline, the low-sec pipeline between Heck and Jita, and the reason is because they got chased out. There's an incursion going on in there and there are rats on the gate, so obviously with the chance of real PvP they all ran away and they're now set up in Resbaroko, and that's what you just saw happen there. So with this having been said, let's jump on to the main point of this video, because one of the big things that people say about it, and it's come across in a lot of the comments, is that gankers don't make any money. And oh my god, that could not be further than the truth. So the guys that I sort of know, that I regularly see, are these three corporations. So you have or these three alliances, should I say. So you have Now You're Gone, which is actually, when you go through, they are predominantly a nullsec alliance. However, one of the main gankers that I encounter is from them, and he works alongside these guys. Set safety to red. These guys are a low-sec PvP corp. That's predominantly what they do. They are all over the place. They roam, they gank, they do all of this stuff. And I choke and die. So, do these guys make money? Well, here's the kill record in front of you. This is the best way of putting it. Now, it doesn't work as accurately on Now That You're Gone because they are nullsec, so a lot of what they do is skewed. However, when you actually look at what these guys are doing, in the last week they lost 12 billion and they made 68, or closer to 13 and 69. So they made a profit of over 56 billion. Is that right? 52 billion, 50, yep, 56 billion in 1 week in a corporation, or in an alliance of 163 members. Now, not all of those members are active, so I don't know what the actual real world numbers are, but when you see here where we have all the low sec ganks, look, there's me, well, this is me. But where we have these low sec ganks, you also have a lot of small ships and things like that coming through. However, you will occasionally have, as you can see here, some better fitted ships that they've managed to pop, and you'll get a decent amount of loot off of those. So this is closer to, it's like a farming method. There's a lot that they have to do, there's a lot of work that they put in. But this also comes into one of the key differences between these and the high seckers. This is a community. These are a lot of people in a corporation that are doing this together. While you might get a lot of multiple account owners in that, when you see the actual setups, and especially obviously you saw in a previous video, I was hanging out there for a while, you see individual people coming and going, you see the chat that they're putting out there, they chat to people in local and stuff like this, so you know there's a lot of people in amongst this. So it is sort of a community gaming thing as well, so there is that sense of belonging, and it's why in the past I've said, if you're looking at getting into it, talk to these people, they are nice enough. Everybody's got a different sort of perspective and morality and financial backing and stuff like this, but this is something that makes money, and it's something that is easy to get into. It's pretty much the lowest level of skill requirement you can get in EVE. You need a couple of skills, something comes through the gate, you target, you shoot, job done. There's so many of you there that it's an easy kill. You might lose a ship every once in a while, but as you can see, losses to wins, it's not going to be much. For 1,000 ships lost, for 6,000 ships lost, they killed 172,000. Now, yes, most of them are shuttles, but still, that is a good win to loss ratio. But then, let's jump across to the other side of it, because for me, the other side is actually less tasteful. So over here we have dot safety. Now, as you can see in the last week, these guys lost 19 billion worth, but they made 586 billion for, it says 1,000 members, but I am not sure how many of those are alts. So not quite knowledgeable on the actual numbers of active players in the group. However, they are a significant hitter, and they do generate a lot of money. And as you can see here, as we go through, they get a lot of losses, and I'm loving the Corvette losses. These are just funny to me. However, he says again and again and again, when you look at some of the kills are quite pricey, very pricey. And when you look at how much they lost to get these kills, there's a hell of a profit margin in almost every one. And that's for the lower margins. When you're talking about battleships to the amount of every time I forget the name, catalysts that they lost. But then let's just jump up a little bit, because there is a more impressive side of this. I'm just going to make this window a bit bigger. If we go to, is it in 7? There are more kills happening, and every time I go through this page it gets pushed back a little bit further. It's in 8. So this is a few days ago, and it's a very good example of what's going on. We have here a 9 billion freighter that's come through. So 4 billion got destroyed-ish, 5 billion got dropped-ish. So 5 billion in one hit is a phenomenal amount of ISK. However, the more interesting part of this is the killers. As you can see here, we actually have a whole load of purifiers and hounds that did this. If you list all the pilots, that's a lot of pilots. But the interesting part is they didn't lose any ships doing this. So this was something that it was a large kill, and it cost them nothing. They lost a bit of sex status, that's not a big issue. But it is impressive, and regardless of whether you like it or not, it's still impressive. But that shows how much money these guys are making, because in 1 week managing to go through 500 billion in profit, that is phenomenal amounts of money. If you look at their sort of recent / all time, it is in the trillions, nearly 50 trillion in profit. Because yeah, that's just phenomenal. So that's why they do it, because there's money in it. And there's money when you look at how many accounts participate. A couple of good kills and that was not the only freighter kill in one day, but a couple of good kills means that you've plexed your accounts. And it requires the killers, so the actual accounts that are doing the killing, and it requires a couple of scanners. So it's also a very boring activity, because the majority of the time you're sat in station in a couple of ships, one ship maybe more, and you've got a scanner out there, and the scanner is just targeting everything that looks juicy coming through and giving it a scan. Is there any cargo? This also links into the fact that if you're flying a blockade runner and they can't be scanned, they are essentially flying pinatas. So whack them and see what comes out. You will almost always, if you're AFK in a blockade runner running through one of those systems, one of the sort of choke point systems, you're gonna get smacked. It will be a rarity that you don't. So put that in mind when you're actually looking at this and planning this. So, where does this happen? The long and the short of it is absolutely everywhere. You will get it in high sec, you will get it in low sec, and it can happen at any point. But there's a couple of ways that you can sort of check what's going on. First off, know where your trade hubs are. If you're within 2 jumps of a trade hub, you're at risk of this. Sometimes you will get the catalyst ganks, sometimes you'll get a whole load of tornadoes that just blast whatever is there they think they can kill. And if you are in a hauler, make sure that you have enough EHP and try and keep your signature radius down low. So that means going for armor plates more than going for shield. If you're going for shield, go for hardeners instead of extenders. Make sure they're activated the second that you uncloak from the gate. And that can sort of provide a bit more survivability. But there could always be extra numbers, so it's not a guaranteed method. When it comes to outside of that couple of jumps from any of the trade hubs, obviously you can see here we've got Jita, we've got Amar, Renz, Dodexi, Heck, and there's a couple of secondary ones. But this is where Dotlan comes in. So for Dotlan maps, you can go into the route planner and you can punch in where you want to go. And for this, I have just punched in a route between all of the main sort of trade hubs. And what you can see here is on the right hand side of the list we have kills, and it's the kills in the last 3 hours that have happened. So you can have a look at what activity is currently going on. You can see in Bali we've had 190 killed, in Dodexi 98, which is a main trade hub, Geth 202, some in Amar, not many. And these sort of come up in general. This will give you a good idea of what is going on in your trade hub. But also you can click on a particular system. So for instance, one that isn't showing up high here is Udema. So only 8 in the past hour. But if you look in the past 48 hours, you'll see at some point you'll get 100. Within 1 hour you get 100 kills, and then 103 kills within a 2 hour period. So 203 kills in a 2 hour period. So that'll give you an idea of how dangerous it can be. And just because there isn't any kills doesn't mean there won't be any. So that's a historical view, but not the best of examples, although good knowledge to have. So that's a way to sort of get around about that. Now, if you are living in the south, you've also got a bit of a problem, because almost everything goes through Udema, and that is the main choke point. If you put on this map, what you can do is you can put in your route, and you can say for instance prefer high sec, but you can also put avoidances in, and I don't know why it's there, but this route is actually avoiding Udema currently. And if you avoid it, you have to go through low sec. So that's why that's the choke point I talk about the most, because it is the choke point between the north and the south. There is no other sort of way around it, as you can see if the map buggers off. On this particular one, from Amar, from Heck, from Renz, you are heading up and through Udema. There used to be a high sec route, but with Poshvin dropping out of normal space, it's not there anymore, because there used to be a circuit on this sort of left hand side, but that's no longer there, and hasn't been for a while. So that's why that has become more of a choke point now, and personally I think it should be redressed just for access sake, but even if it was, that wouldn't really change the actual the sort of ganking ability of people. Now, lastly, I want to touch on this subject again because you see a lot of people in the comments for things like this, not in my comments recently, but in other videos, that will actually talk about people cheating when they're doing this. People that are, what they're trying to say, and they don't always have the terminology, is that they're multiplexing, so they're input broadcasting to multiple accounts. Now, this is a problem. This absolutely is a problem. And within the last 2 weeks, I witnessed this in one jump out from Odema, where there was 15 people that landed on a ship next to me and immediately opened up everything in the same second. A quick TLDR on this is that if you are alt-tabbing between things, you need one button press. If you've configured something, you need one button press to switch and one button press to target, if you have done it as efficiently as possible. And the fastest typist ever in the world managed 11 button presses in 1 second, and the fastest button smasher, who just was in the Guinness Book of Records for how fast they could smash a button, was 16. So for 15 accounts you would need 30 button presses to be able to activate all of those if you weren't input broadcasting, which is over 1 second, so it's over 1 tick of the game. So when they all activate at the exact same time and there's that many of them, then you know. This person, or these people, got reported and they are not in the game anymore. So within 2 weeks they are not in any of the game. I do not know if they were banned, I do not know if they quit, but I witnessed that, and I witnessed those people going. I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that, because again, we've been through the sort of rules on harassment and bullying, and I'm going to avoid those. Also, if you've seen any names on my screen, please don't contact them or give them shit or anything like that. The guys are playing the game the same as I am. And to be honest, I'm putting out a little bit more of a verbal bashing down than these guys do. So the argument could be made that I'm doing worse than they are. And I'm more than happy to have comments coming at me, but I'd be very annoyed, and I would report people that went after somebody else and did that. I don't think it should be done. I think you should try and put out as much nicety as possible. Obviously, in a controversial topic like this, it's not easy for everybody to be nice, but before being nasty, wind it in a little bit, have a kebab or a beer to calm yourself down, and don't make the comment. So we do know that that's happening, but also, and this is something that I find very funny, because I was witnessing this a few times in Odema since I've come back, where big freighter ganks happen, and I've not caught one on camera yet. I need to get one. But one of the things that you will see is you will see 30 or 40 accounts rock up at the same time. You will see these accounts initiate, and one of the things that was very funny to me is that where they had aligned, they had landed in sort of a bubble on one side, which can happen with fleet warp, but they initiated the attack, and it sort of looked like a spiral, because you could see the guns and the scram initiate, and then the next one and the next one and the next one, which is obviously somebody alt-tabbing very quickly between things. But then Concord started popping these things in a line, so there was about 8 characters in front, so you had 8 that had initiated, and then the back one started popping, and the timing was almost perfect between the ships popping and the next ship turning on. So there was this sort of little pleasant run of ships attacking and ships popping after the attack, and they managed to gank the freighter. In that case, you can tell very easily that they're not input broadcasting, because things aren't happening at the same time. It is something that you need to remember with this, that somebody can activate all of the weapons, all of the modules at the same time, and just hit target, and they will all initiate. So from a secondary gamer's point of view, you can't tell that from a distance. Also, if you have 10 people in a fleet, and DBRB used to do this with Goonswarm, where he will say, right, everybody lock up this, lock up this, lock up this, you've got 3 targets locked, and then he will count you in, and he'll go 3, 2, 1, fire, and everybody fires at the same time. So you could have that countdown between people, and especially if they're geographically similar, you could still have that initiation. So that is very important. If you think it's suspect, then report it. Do not get other people to report them, because that is a bannable offence if you're putting in multiple reports. And if you're found to be the person pushing in all of those reports. If everybody wants to do it in your corpo for the one thing and they all witnessed it, that's one thing. If it's you telling other people after the fact, which is why I never put up any of those sort of videos, then that can come back on you. But also, you might not know the situation and CCP might. In some situations I know that they have been slower to act, but I'm also aware, I've been seeing that in the last 2 weeks, that sometimes they do act really fast. So I don't know what's going on there. Maybe it's a case of somebody is doing something that is not showing as input broadcasting, and it's just a lot of people playing at the same time. Who knows? But that's something to be aware of. So report it if you see it and you think it's suspicious, or you're sort of sure it's suspicious, but then don't spam the report or give harassment or anything like that. Keep yourself safe, because once you step into that realm, you've done wrong as opposed to them doing wrong. And you don't know what's going on. Those countdowns from DBRB used to be really funny, because it was a 3-2-1 and then 1,000 ships hit fire at the same time, which was something to behold in those big fleets. So I hope that gives a little bit of clarity and clarification as to why people do this, and exactly how profitable it is, because it's a misnomer that it's not profitable. PvP in general isn't always a profitable thing, but this is one of the ways where it can make some serious risk. And a lot of when you're going into nullsec and things like that, it gets really profitable. I used to be somebody who cleaned up after the CFC. I would be part of the fight, but then I'd be straight into a hauler into the battle site and grabbing as much as possible afterwards, and it would make me an absolute ton of money. So something to think about in general. And I would advise somebody, if it's not your thing, try joining a low sec corp for a little while, because it's quite an interesting thing to do in general. And it's always good to get that sort of the experience in the side of it. Fly little things like the Kestrel I've got here. They are inexpensive. You can fit up tons for 100 million or so, and it's something that can get you a little bit fun. Faction warfare is also fun, but at the moment it seems to be a little bit calmer. Maybe it's different in any areas. I joined the Minmatar a couple of times, but definitely something to experience. And always after any fight, I know that a lot of people don't think much of the Gatecampers and stuff like this, and obviously with my opinion, I don't think they're particularly skilled, but people are people. Not skill. I don't think that the gate camping itself requires skill, and some of the gate campers I don't think are skilled, some of them are, but in general, people are people. Don't put hate out there. Always GFs afterwards, because it could be good fight or it could be get fucked. Either way, GF is always appropriate. So I'll leave you with that. Thanks for watching. Comments, likes, suggestions, any of that down below, and if you like, if you disagree, if you've got extra points, I'm always willing to learn. If I've got anything wrong, feel free to correct me. I'm more than happy to put out other videos and stuff like this. And if I do put out any corrections to videos, I'll link them back in the previous videos, just to make sure anybody watching something older gets a good opinion and stuff like that. So thank you for your time. Thanks to all of the members that have subscribed and stuff like that. It's very nice to see. It's also nice to sort of keep me incentivized to making more videos and things like that. And if I ever manage to get to the video on corp theft, we'll see what's going on with that, because that's becoming quite funny at the moment. Bye!